Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie and welcome back to Discjunkie'S Duster. So today I am actually standing in a winter wonderland because winter has hit us here in Sweden with full force. So it's actually pretty cold, quite different from what you saw in the previous video where we didn't even have snow on the ground. But luckily for me, I am actually going to shoot a bit of an indoors kind of video today, or at least we're going to be inside the Duster. So let me just go ahead and actually get into my car to talk a little bit about my car phone mounting setup that I've been working on. And this is essentially based off of a bunch of RAM mount pieces. And I did a video quite a few years ago working on my Jeep where I got some free stuff from RAM Mount Nordics, and I decided to reuse a lot of this for my current setup. And I didn't really make any sort of making off segment for this. I essentially set this up. There was a lot of trial and error involved, and that's also why I'm just filming this as it is finalized and set up. So you're not going to be seeing sort of anything on how I made this. I'm just going to walk you through what I've actually done here. So first of all, you will notice that there is a RAM mount suction cup thing, which is the thing that's holding this entire construct in place. This is something I purchased myself. I think you can get these for around 30 euro, and these essentially have a vacuum kind of function to them where you move this little thing, which I'm not going to do now. So it's not like your typical cheap thing that you just stick on there. I know there's a lot of sort of thought about suction cups not being safe or not being something that stays in place, and I had very much the same thought myself, but RAM mount really has a system where you essentially create a vacuum. There is a lever here which you move, and then the whole thing just really sticks on there. And so I am actually feeling quite confident with this setup. I'm not sort of scared that this is going to come loose. I've been driving with it for a couple of weeks and it's just really solid. It really stays in place, and so I wouldn't think that you have to worry about this actually coming loose, because the suction cup is actually really powerful, and yeah, that's just not a thing you're gonna have to worry about as far as I know. If it does come loose, if you have this kind of setup, then I think it would probably be you know, defective, so you should probably check that out. But if it's on there, it's probably gonna stay on there for quite some time until you actually loosen it. But that's also part of why I felt safe enough to actually mount this additional piece, which is essentially a boat compass. I bought this quite a while ago. I actually mounted it in my Jeep, but I don't know if I ever made a proper video on it. So this is a boat compass with its own sort of holder, and then I've mounted this using some additional RAM mount brackets. And if you want to see like a detailed view of all the stuff I got for my RAM mount sponsorship thing when I had the Jeep, I'll just leave some links for those videos in the description. You can check those out. And I will also try to list all the components featured in this video so you can sort of look into them in case you want to experiment with a similar setup. I don't know if anybody wants to do that, but hopefully this can be somewhat inspiring. So I have this boat compass here, and it's also interesting to note, I'm actually going to turn on my car now just to show you this live, because this actually has a slight distortion on the degrees, which you will notice as I turn on my car. So just gonna turn this on. Okay, so it's winter, not feeling like it's gonna start, but you will see that this actually moves, so it's off by about that much. Or I'll probably need to add a separate marking so I know where I'm driving, but I'm basically just adding this for fun, so it's not something that's sort of super important. It's more about knowing the general direction I'm going, and I think it looks really cool. And this was something which I just came up with myself that I thought it would be cool, but I realized that there is actually a small segment, just a couple of seconds, in the Mad Max Fury Road movie, we can see that Immortan Joe has a similar compass on his dashboard. So regardless of which, this thing looks really cool, but the most important factor of why I wanted to work on a phone mounting setup is obviously mounting the phone. It's pretty self-explanatory. And so I decided to use one of these arms, which was actually longer to begin with. Here is an identical arm, which was what I used in the beginning. You can see that this actually extends about maybe 10-15 centimeters longer. So what I did is that I removed one of the end pieces, which is quite easy to do. You just need a pair of pliers and some just general power, or just you don't really need a lot of tools. Just mount it and try to pull this off using a pair of pliers. Then I cut down the actual tubing, and then I just re-added the end piece, so it became like a shorter variation of the same product. Then I'm using the Ram Mount X grip like this, which you just, you know, open up like so, and you'll add the phone, and we're gonna do that in a minute. Then I also have a piece of plastic tubing, which I essentially bought at some typical electrics or hardware store. And this has been attached using some of these Velcro straps, which are also really easy to find. They're typically used for sort of electric or sort of putting wires and stuff. So I ran this plastic tubing here with my little charging cable. I fastened the charging cable on the side using some double-sided tape. Hopefully it'll stay in there. And then I just ran this downwards towards the one of the two little powering USB ports here. Now these are actually different, and I'm gonna get back to why, but basically the one on the left is just a charger, but the one on the right is what you're gonna use if you need like an interface for your Apple CarPlay system. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Apple CarPlay system, but in order to do that I will need to essentially plug in a phone. So just give me a moment to actually do that. And then we are essentially going to take a look at this setup that I've got for playing music and just show you a little bit of the functionality of what you can do. So the Apple CarPlay system, which I haven't really talked about, is essentially a built-in function in the sat-nav, which you'll find on the home screen. You're gonna see you got the little Apple CarPlay symbol down there, and Apple CarPlay is essentially a functionality which allows you to access most of your regular apps that you have on your phone if you have an iPhone. So here you can get like your phone section and you know, like the regular messages and just music and a bunch of stuff, and it's like a regular touchscreen. You just swipe it and things. But there are some apps which you will not get into the system. For example, YouTube, which is, you know, obviously a driving hazard. People shouldn't be using YouTube on their main screen while they're driving. So I guess that's why that's not available. I don't know, but it's just me guessing. But the thing is that personally, I like to use YouTube to actually listen to music these days. I do listen to a lot of sort of extended mixes and mashups and things that people do. So I would really like to get YouTube music to play on the system. Now I can obviously activate YouTube on my phone. So if we just do that when I have Apple CarPlay connected, you will tell that we actually do get the music into the car speakers. So that's really great. But the problem with this is that personally, when I'm driving, I wouldn't want to have a screen up here which is animated and stuff if you have a music video playing or something. So here's a little life hack for you, which I just figured out this I think is pretty helpful. I can obviously just, you know, if I bring up the music a little bit, I can dim my screen down here. Just go to the home section and push the little night thing like that, so that's fine. But while I'm driving, I wouldn't want to have this up here to be bright, especially in nighttime. So here's a fun little thing that you can do. If you just swipe down from the top corner and you lower the light of your screen all the way to the bottom, you can actually keep this menu, this thing left. You don't really need to go back. You can also go to this screen, which is quite darkened now, but you can still play your music through the regular speakers. So yeah, that's just a little fun life hack for you if you also enjoy listening to music off of YouTube, but you don't want to do it while you're driving. So it's just a little thing you can do. But yeah, so this is essentially my setup. I'm quite happy with it. And I know a lot of people might think that, you know, you don't really need a phone mount when you have a car that uses Apple CarPlay. And I guess that's true. Essentially, you could essentially just have your phone lying down there in the little cup thing at the bottom, and you can use Apple CarPlay for like most of the functionality, like Spotify and things like that. But personally, I just really like to have my phone mounted. For one thing, it's a lot quicker to use. I think it's not, you know, the CarPlay system and the sat-nav is quite good. It is pretty responsive. I don't think it's bad or anything. But personally, some things I really prefer to do on my phone because it swipes better and it's just a bit more practical. And also it's not as far away as the screen, so you don't have to fiddle as much when you're driving. But that's just my personal choice. And I also like the availability of using YouTube to play music and having that sort of easily accessible so I can control it. But one of the plus things, I mean, for example, you can use the built-in, sorry, where is it there? You can use the built-in map function, which I really like. So you can actually use the map function from your phone, like the same app, and still play music and stuff and have the map be on big screen here. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff about Abercrombie which I like, but I really wanted to mount my phone anyway, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people who see a need for mounting their phone in this car. So this is my setup. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I am actually freezing because it is actually quite cold. You can see the snow outside here in the winter wonderland that I'm living in. But that is essentially it for this video. This is a Dacia Duster 2021. That is the Duster 2 generation, just in case you're curious. But yeah, I am absolutely freezing. So I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. And as usual, hope to see you all next time.